Okay. So let's ponder upon this question, that why we care to meditate in the first place. Do you have any thoughts to share? Should we meditate or not? Meditation?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
To ask question from yourself, to get answer from yourself
Okay.
through meditation.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So essentially in other words, we inquire through the process of meditation, and then at the maturity of our meditation, we hope to get answers to those questions. Am I right? Okay. Any other thoughts?
Focus.
Yeah, very good. So we meditate in order to get focus. Okay. So we can ask one more question further. When we talk about focus, does that focus have any goal to pursue, or that focus can be just individualistic, whatever one feels like? One can ask that question. Do you have any particular thought on that?
Like basic concentration, like.
Just so that we can do well in the exam.
Yeah, like no multiple thoughts or overthinking.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Just trying to get a sense of what are your thoughts. Okay, any other thoughts of why meditate? Yes.
Just to empty your mind so that you can relax everything. You don't worry about anything. You are just free.
Empty your mind. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
To like, so then you can I guess link with your God.
So what you are suggesting is that meditation can be utilized to link ourselves with God.
Yes.
And usually, like, why God comes into the picture is that God is the source of our existence. So overall, we want to get connected with the source of our existence. I mean, to elaborate on what you just said. Thank you. Any other? Okay, so thank you for sharing your thoughts. What I have seen is that when we talk about meditation, typically meditation belongs in three basic categories. We can elaborate further, but three basic categories. One kind of meditation is where we want to sort of negate our experience, so just like you mentioned about empty your thoughts, so there are some thoughts coming, but I want to go against that flow. So you want to negate, like, let's say you see something and then you negate that by saying, no, that's not the real thing, see that? So likewise, when one actually goes further, one may say, I'm not this body. Although all our experiences in this world are in terms of our body, but we try to negate that. No, sorry, that experience is not a genuine experience. So let's go deeper, So you are trying to negate. The second possibility is what you can think of is it's quite prevalent in sort of mindfulness sort of ideologies. That is, they generally talk about going outward, going outward in the sense, instead of going inward, you go outward by saying that, okay, you are everything, you are part of the entire existence, so therefore you sort of embrace everything. Like if you look at a tree in front of you, that tree is part of your existential reality. You see that? Like it's like a merging into the entirety of the universe around. So those meditations are all about like just expand and try to break that layer of individuality. And therefore, like if you're able to experience that, then you will experience this whole universal brotherhood, and you will not attach any emotions per se. You will just think, okay, just don't, whatever happens, it happens. Just don't try to ascribe any emotions to it. So you anesthetize your emotions. You understand? That's another direction of meditation that are commonly found. The third category of meditation is actually going inward. And going inward, it's very similar to what you were saying, with an idea of finding answer to fundamental questions like, who am I? You know, and then if you want to further go deeper, okay, if I'm a spirit soul and not this external covering, how can I experience that? So therefore, then one wants to go further into that path of self-discovery, where one wants to more and more discover oneself, and then also figure out how I am situated in relation to the overall creation and in relation to the source of our existence. So in this way, one is just going internal more and more. So usually the Vedic paradigm is having the tendency to seek the answers more inward direction, you know, like go internal. And if you see in all of these cases, whether you are sort of negating whatever your experiences are, or you're embracing things, or you are having this kind of inward sort of direction to your meditation, in all the cases, you are able to kind of save yourself from experiencing the immediate sort of challenges that you are facing. You know, like suppose you are in tremendous anxiety. So you are able to do a change of absorption there. You see that? And that's why regardless of the direction you take, there tends to be some benefit, right? And sometimes people utilize all these directions in different directions, and they would come up with their own ways of meditation, you know. Like if you attend any mindfulness sort of seminar, they will make you go through certain exercises, and they will concoct certain things, you know. And they will say that meditation is actually a form of mindfulness. That's how they would express. Or meditation is an expression of mindfulness. Or, you know, in that sense, it's a subset of mindfulness. And then they will come up with even mantra meditation, but they will concoct mantras. So, like I have participated in meditation like that, where so one mantra would be let go. So when you're breathing in, you basically say out loud let, and then breathe out go, you know. So in this way, they come up with different varieties of ways in which you can center yourselves and then try to keep yourselves away from the outside sort of interactions, and this way safeguard yourselves from those negative energy. So we want to now see from the lens of Bhagavad Gita how Krishna drives this whole message of meditation, because after all, whatever form and shape and flavor of meditation that you may experience, ultimately they are all rooted in Bhagavad Gita. You know, so if you look at the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, so Patanjali Yoga Sutras, the whole eightfold yoga system that Patanjali Muni gives, they're all kind of founded on the Bhagavad Gita, and he just comes up with a structure to it. And then that structure, if you practice, then you go in the increasing degree of meditation. I wanted to show you like how that relationship can be established. So how does Patanjali Muni define yoga as? He says that yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha. So chitta means consciousness, vritti means alteration, nirodha means that which checks or stops. So yoga is that which checks the alteration of consciousness. Because original consciousness is pure, and therefore you don't want that to be subjected to different changes and alteration. Another way of putting the same thing would be yoga is that kind of discipline which stops the churning of the mind. And therefore, just like you said, you want focus, right? And therefore, lack of focus generally comes because the mind is constantly churning things. I mean, on average, they say, based on the research, psychological studies, an average person gets about 60,000 thoughts on a daily basis. And recently somebody published an article, no, that is not exact number. So they came up with 6,000 thoughts, you know, that's too exaggerated. So even if it's 6,000 per day, that's also a huge number. You know, whether it's 6,000 or 60,000, that doesn't matter. but it's still a huge number of thoughts, like bombardments of like all these thought bubbles that go on a regular basis. So how can we get anything done if like all the time mind is churning, you know? So therefore, yoga is a practice that which can somehow just stop the churning of the mind. So that is the place where Patanjali Muni starts. And now, if you understand that you want to stop the churning of the mind, how can you stop it? Then he talks about the eightfold yoga system, which basically yama, niyama, then asana, pranayama. These are the basic practices. And then you enter into higher stages of meditation. So after pranayama comes pratyahara, dharana, dhyan, and then samadhi. So what are yama and niyamas? Yama, what does yama mean? Yama means to control something, right? So you are trying to adhere to certain prohibitions. And niyama is something that you follow or you adhere to, correct? So niyama generally means injunctions. So yama and niyama together, they become injunctions and prohibitions. And in yogic practices, these are detailed to a great degree, you know. Like it's not just learning yoga is not a matter of just joining a yoga society and just learning some physical postures and some breathing exercises. So without actually paying heed to yama and niyama or prohibitions and injunctions, the next stage is going to be difficult. Yes, you may actually show that you can bend your body like a pretzel, you know, and different angles and then do very, very difficult asanas. But point is that the eightfold yoga system has been established by Patanjali Munis to move forward, you know, on the trajectory, not to remain just stuck in the healthy body, you know, and even healthy mind. That's just like a very, very beginning sort of stage, you know. The idea is to move forward. How can you move forward? So moving forward can only happen if you are paying attention to all the stages. Like go step by step. So therefore, it is just like a yoga ladder, you know. The eightfold yoga system is like a ladder you're climbing up. The idea is not to just like climb up to the third stage or fourth stage and be there, you know. But the idea is to go step by step above, one after another. So then after you have really paid attention to the basic rules and regulations in the form of yama and niyama, which basically is going to frame your life in the mode of goodness, frankly speaking. That's what it is. For any kind of yogic discipline, fundamentally you have to be good, you know, like you have to be internally stable. So it provides a platform on which you can practice. So generally when there is mode of goodness, then you can embrace any spiritual practice and you can be successful. That's the point. But if the mode of goodness is missing, then spiritual practices are going to be a challenge. So usually mode of goodness is established through, I like to say, three things, you know, the kind of food we eat, okay, the kind of activities we perform, and the kind of company we keep. These three things are the most fundamental factors in framing our life in the mode of goodness. So always pay attention to these three things. What am I eating? What is there on my plate? Is that kind of saturated with goodness? Is that something that is free from violence? And is that something that can actually help my consciousness go up higher and higher? So we pay attention to what is there on the plate, you know. Then we next pay attention to also what kind of engagement I'm making myself busy with. If I'm watching like on average, let's say 20 movies a week, you know, then the consciousness will accordingly develop, because the mind will be always like churning those things that you're watching, you know. Or if I'm spending on average 1 hour on Facebook, you know, always just trying to figure out what's going on here, going on there, and caught in that network of the web. That's why it's called web network, right? We can easily get caught. So those activities really matter, how we are actually channelizing our mind. if we adopt spiritual practices, the spiritual practices tend to discipline our lifestyle as a whole. So we can understand that that we when we talk about framing our life in the mode of goodness, so the kind of food we eat, the kind of activities we partake in, and the kind of companies we keep. Because the association, the kind of friends we maintain, and the kind of the way we get influenced to do certain activities, they are all governed by who are my friends and company. So just be attentive about, just pay attention to those things. And then once the yama and niyama are regulated, then comes the next stage, which is the asana. So asana is just so that you can align your body properly, have proper physical postures. And then with the proper physical postures, the idea is that it is meant to also create a sense of awareness of our breath. Because the asanas are never practiced in isolation. So always awareness is brought to our breathing. The reason is that the breath control is directly connected with mind control. So ultimately, we are meant to kind of bring our attention to controlling our mind properly. Once you are there in the mind control stage, now you are actually ready for meditation. You understand? So yama, niyama, asana, and pranayama, these are the preparatory stages before you can enter into meditation. So here in the 12th verse, so now we are coming, I'm just wanting to set the stage. So in the 12th verse, you can see what Krishna is saying here, the sarva dwarani sanyamya, that you are shutting down all the dwars or all the gates. So how many gates do we have to our body? Yes. We have actually 9 gates to our body. Yeah. So, so 9 gates generally are referring to the working senses typically. Yeah. So 9 gates of our body, they are the via medium through which we are interfacing with this world. So if one is able to shut down these 9 gates, then one is actually shutting down one's interaction with the outer world effectively, right? That process is called pratyahara. Pratyahara means one is at will able to bring one's senses away from the sense objects. Usually the senses are always running after sense objects for enjoyment. What are the senses? The 2 eyes, the nostrils, the ears, the tongue, and the skin. There are 5 senses, 5 knowledge gathering senses. And these 5 knowledge gathering senses, they're always on a prowl, like a lion is on a prowl for sense gratification, grabbing this sense, grabbing that sense, like that, always looking for things to enjoy. So pratyahara means at will we are trying to check ourselves from trying to grab to try to enjoy. You understand? So this is the dharana. So sarva dvarani sanyamya, so pratyahara, then mano priti niruddhyacha. So you are essentially blocking your mind in the region of the heart. Niruddhya means to really block. So in other words, with the help of the heart, you are bringing the mind in control. You understand? Because heart is actually higher position, because heart is the seat for the soul. Your volition power is coming from the region of the heart. And therefore, you are actually subjugating the influence of the mind with the help of the heart. So mano hridi niruddhyacha. And that's how you are practicing pratyahara, keeping the senses away from the sense object. And then Krishna is saying, then murdni adhaya atmanah pranam. Pranam means what? Life air. You're bringing the life air in the region of the Agya chakra. You're lifting the life air in this region. So this is part of the Shat chakra yoga, where you are bringing the life air up in that region. So in this way, Krishna is actually giving here instructions about how you can actually practice Shat Chakra Yoga in this section. How you can practice Shat Chakra Yoga. All right. So Murdhini Adhaya Atmana Prana, then Astito Yoga Dharana. So this is what is going to lead to the practice of Yoga Dharana. So did you see the three stages here? Pratyahara and then Dharana coming into picture directly. And then the next two stages would be Dhyan and then Samadhi. The Dhyan means going deeper into the meditation, and then Samadhi. Samadhi is where one is approaching the final destination. So this is how the roadmap that Krishna is giving in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So now let's kind of go back. So where Arjuna asked a question in the beginning of this 8th chapter, which became the focal point of Krishna's entire explanation in the 8th chapter. That question that Arjuna is asked is that, how can I somehow know you at the time of death? That was Arjuna's question. To respond to that question, what Krishna answered immediately was that Antakalacha mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram iha prayati samadbhavam yati na asti adrishanshaya. That if at the time of leaving this body, somehow or other, if you can remember me, if at the time of leaving your body, if somehow or other you can remember me, then what's going to happen? You will attain to my nature. You will attain to my nature. Yaha prayati. At that time, if you leave remembering me, then sa mad bhavam, you will attain to my nature. And then he says that yati na asti atra sanshaya. There is no doubt that this is going to happen. So this is a direct answer to Arjuna's question. How can I somehow or other think of you at the time of death? And Krishna is saying that if you think of me at the time of death, what's going to happen is that you will attain me, you will attain to my nature. And then after that, then Krishna is now giving the clues for how we can actually make that happen. Then Krishna is saying, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. And then he says that Mai arpita manobuddhi mame vaishyasi asanshaya. So then Krishna is saying that how can you make that happen? You can make that happen. It's not by chance that somehow or other I'm dying and I'll remember Krishna all of a sudden, right? There needs to be something that goes on while we are living our life so that we can actually bring our attention to thinking about Krishna, right? So what is that? So Krishna is saying that Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu. Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu means at all times. Mam Anusmara. This is the meditation word. Mam Anusmara. You think of me. Mam Anusmara and Yudhyacha. Yudhyacha means you carry out your duties. So remembrance is not at the time like, okay, you are sitting for meditation and you're chanting Om. But Krishna is giving the formula for meditation in a most practical manner. That while you're writing your software program or doing other things, at that time, you dedicate your activities to me. You think of me. Mam Anusmara. When you are brushing your teeth, Mam Anusmara. When you are taking your bath, Mam Anusmara. When you are walking from the parking lot to go to your office, think of me. You see the practicality of Krishna's remembrance? So it's Tasmat, therefore, Sarveshu Kaleshu, at all times. Mam Anusmara and Yudhacha. These two things simultaneously have to happen. So Krishna is not just encouraging Arjuna to fight, but Krishna is encouraging Arjuna to fight with the right consciousness. It's not just, okay, Arjuna was fighting on the right side, therefore it's fine if he just kills all the enemies and then emerges victorious. Job is done. Krishna is saying, sorry, the job is not done by just that. Your job will be done if you are able to also do Mam Anusmara along with Yudhyacha. So it's not that Krishna is saying just Yudhya, just fight. Krishna is saying Mam Anusmara and Yudhyacha. You have to remember me and fight at the same time. So then one can ask, how can that happen? Then Krishna gives another verse. Krishna says that Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena Chetasa na Anyagamina. And then Paramam Purusham Divyam Yati Partha Anuchintaya. Krishna is saying that yes, in order to do this Mam Anuswara Yudhyacha at every like chore that you are practicing in your life, like simplest possible activity that you perform in your life, to remember Krishna, there has to be something else that needs to be embraced. And what is that? That is abhyas. You need to practice yoga. You need to practice yoga. Krishna is saying abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa na anyagamina. So if you are practicing to control your mind at the time when you are practicing yoga. Now, what form of yoga? So Krishna already kind of settled that 2 chapters ago. At the end of the 6th chapter, Krishna says that yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamomata. That the highest form of yogic practice is that kind of yogic practice where your heart is connected with me with love and devotion. And that is essentially bhakti yoga. Therefore, whenever from that point onwards, Krishna is talking about yoga, unless contextually established otherwise, we are meant to take it as bhakti yoga. So Krishna is saying that abhyasa yoga yuktena. What are you abhyas? What are you practicing? What are you doing abhyas for? It is bhakti yoga, obviously. Because that point is already settled in 6.47, 6th chapter 47 verse. We are in the 8.8 that I'm quoting, abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasanam anyagamaya. You see the point? So how Krishna is very logical. So Krishna first pointed out, so just to kind of recap what we have done. At the time of leaving this body, if you can somehow or other remember me, then no doubt you will attain to my nature. Okay? Then the question comes, how can I remember Krishna at the time of death? Right? Therefore, Krishna settles by saying that tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, at all times, you try to remember me. The question is, how can I make that happen? So you can make that happen if you have some regulated practice going on. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa na anyagamina. And then when we are practicing that, whom are we directing that practice to? Then Krishna is saying that Paramam Purusham Divyam. That practice is directed towards Parama Purusha Divyam, the transcendental personality of Godhead, Krishna. You know? And then Yati Partha Anuchintaya. In this way, thinking like this, Yati Partha Anuchintaya. You will attain me like this. Then the question arises, what does it mean by attaining Krishna? What does it mean by attaining Krishna? Can anyone suggest something? What does it mean by attaining Krishna?
Does it mean like you end up embodying that feeling?
You're embodying what feeling?
Peace?
Peace. So peace, so here we are talking about remembering the person who is the source of our existence at the time of leaving the body. So Krishna is the source of our existence. And he is saying that at the time of leaving this body, if you think of me, then you will attain me. My question is that what does it mean by attaining Krishna? Does it mean that I and Krishna become one?
No.
Yes. Huh?
To gain the Satchitanand peace.
Yeah, you're answering similar to what she said. Very similar. And I'm trying to just take you forward a little bit, you know, with this section. And that's why I chose the words I chose, actually.
Get rid of this death and life.
Yeah, very good. And then what happens? Get rid of death and life. I mean, life you cannot get rid of, but you can get rid of death. I mean, huh? What does it mean by mukti? Mukti is just a buzzword. What does it mean by mukti?
Like liberation, cease of like birth and death.
Yeah, and then what happens? Because you seize the life and death. Okay, then what happens? You become a soul? A particle of dust? Huh?
You're free?
Yeah, free, then what happens to me? Free, and when am I suspended in the air? What's happening? That's what I'm going to clarify, you know? Yes.
Yeah, you could attain to the board, towards the board, and
Exactly.
serve it,
Exactly.
and then what-
That's the precise reason why I read the 21st verse. Krishna is very logical. He's trying to, Krishna had already used multiple times this thing, you know, Ma upetya kaunteya dukhala shashvatam na apnuvanti mahatmana sansiddhi paramamgata. Krishna says that after you attain me, okay, this point that you mentioned, that there is no question of coming back to this material world where two qualities are prevalent, which are those dukkhalam and ashashvatam. This place is a place of misery because the conditions are always temporary. Our tendency is to always see things as eternal, and therefore it doesn't match our experience. You know, the expectation that we carry just doesn't square up to what we find in this world, and therefore we end up becoming miserable. So therefore, Krishna is saying that you will, mam upetya, after attaining me, dukkhala mashashvatam, this place which is a place of misery, na apnuvanti, you're not going to come back. Who is not going to come back? Mahatmana, those who are great souls who have attained me, they're not going to come back. Sansiddhim paramamgata, after attaining that perfection. And Krishna builds further on that. What does Krishna build on? Krishna is saying that, okay, suppose like you want to go to a really nice place here, really nice place, a vacation home, you know. Like sometimes we are really tired and frustrated and want to take a break. And you may choose, okay, let's go to Europe, let's go to this place, that place, you know. And you may choose to go there. And you may stay there for some time. But then you have to come back. So therefore Krishna is saying that is true all across the board, not just places in this world. Krishna is saying even if you choose to go to the highest planet in this universe, there are 14 planetary systems, we are situated in the middle. So you can go down, you can go up, or you can escape this whole universe completely. So if you choose to go to the highest planet, which is the abode of Lord Brahma, Krishna says, "Ah Brahma, Bhuvana Loka, Punar Avartino Arjuna, Mam Patetu Kantya Punar Janma Vidyate." That even if you attain to the highest planet, which is the abode of Lord Brahma, still you would have to come back. But then he's saying two means but. However, if you attain me, you know, Mam Upetya means having attained me, Punarjanma na vidyate, no more Punarjanma. Still the question remains, if there is no Punarjanma, where are we headed? What does it mean by attaining Krishna? Right? So that question is very nicely answered in the 21st verse, where Krishna is saying, Avyakto Akshara iti uktas tamahu paramam gatim. This paramam gatim that Krishna is referring to, he's qualifying with two characteristics. Avyakta. Avyakta means it's obviously not manifest to us. In fact, it is not even the higher plane, even in this universe, is not even manifest to us. What to speak of the spiritual realm, you know? So Avyakta is the first characteristic. The second characteristic is the Akshara. Akshara means that which is imperishable. So just like we are imperishable, God is imperishable, his abode is imperishable. You know? So Avyakta, Akshara, iti uktas. That's how they are referred to as iti uktas. Tamahu paramam gatim. So suppose that we come to know about Mr. President, the President of the United States, in which we are very curious. I want to find out, can we go to his home? And yes, we may get some nice tourism pass that we are given a tour of the White House and we get to go there and spend the whole day. And you may say, I like this place. Can I stay here? He says, sorry, get out of this place. Time is up. But here, if you see, Krishna is talking about Paramam Gatim. So he's saying that Paramam Gatim, which is characterized by these two qualities, which is that Avyakta and Akshara, he's saying that Tad Dhama Paramam Mama. Krishna is saying that is my home, by the way. You understand? So attaining Krishna is attaining to Krishna's home, the spiritual abode. And Krishna is saying that Yam Prapya Na Nivartante. Once you attain that, there is no more coming back. You understand? So this verse kind of completed that understanding that Mam Upete tu Kantya Punarjanmana Vidyate. What does it mean by attaining Krishna? It means to go to Krishna's abode. Tad Dhama Paramam Mama. Yam Prapya Na Nivartante. Tad Dhama Paramam Mama. That supreme destination that Krishna is talking about here. So if you analyze carefully, first of all, Krishna is inviting to the supreme destination, not some vacation home here. That's the number one point. Number 2 point, Krishna is saying that, okay, you come to that supreme destination. By the way, that is my home. Okay, I'm inviting you to my home. That's the point number 2. Number 3, it's not just my home. You can also come there. My door is open. It's not like White House, you just go there and then you're kicked out by the end of the day. You know, you can come. I'm inviting you. And most importantly, the 4th point is that not only you can come there, But you don't have to leave this place. You can stay there as well forever. Do you understand the deal here? It's a big deal. This is the goal of meditation. Krishna is placing meditation with a very precise goal, not just some random, I want to like excel in this, excel in that, bring focus, like all these are just sidekicks of meditation. As far as the meditation is concerned, it is laid down in the context of the ultimate goal of life for the soul, that we are destined for much higher experience. Right now, the experiences that we are settling for in this material world, we should just feel sorry about for the decisions we make in this life and for the different goals that we cherish in our life. There are much, much higher goals that are given in the Bhagavad Gita. So it is meant to inspire us. And the idea is not to practice Shatchakra Yoga. That is actually meant for another class of being. And that's why I started the presentation. It looked very complicated, you know. But Krishna is pointing out that's actually meant for another class of transcendentalists. In the end of the 7th chapter, Krishna introduced 2 classes of transcendentalists. Let me put it very simply. One class of transcendentalists, they are called liberationists, or those who are after liberation. They are called Jara Maran Muktaya. They just want to escape the cycle of birth and death. They just want to escape the conditions of old age and death. Because it's not fun to grow old. It's not fun to be diseased. It's not fun to die. Therefore, I want to escape. Do you understand? So those who want to escape the cycle of birth and death, they are called liberationists, who are after liberation. I don't, this is very uncomfortable. I want to leave this. But that's just not the best category of transcendentalists, by the way. There is a better quality of transcendentalists that can be there. And that is called Nitya Yukta Upasate. Those who are after a clear understanding. It's not just that this material world is uncomfortable and therefore I want to escape, but they are ascribing to a higher reality. The higher reality is that I am fundamentally a part and parcel servant of God. And therefore I belong to Krishna. Right now, all our position, all our disadvantageous position that we experience in this material world is because of our unnatural positioning. It's just like a fish which is put out of water. So if you take a fish out of water and try to give the fish all the kinds of affordances of life, like the best possible affordances of life, give it a cell phone, the highest quality cell phone, it doesn't matter what you give, the fish is out of water. It's not going to experience its natural place of happiness. That is our position. So therefore, this best class of transcendentalists recognizes fundamentally, I am a part and parcel servant of Krishna. And I have forgotten that. All my difficulties because of that. And therefore, Nitya Yukta, I want to be engaged as a loving servant of Krishna. So with that goal in mind, they approach. So for them, the process becomes much simplified. For them, the verse that Krishna speaks is 8.14. That Krishna says that very beautifully, that Ananya Chetas, yo mam smarati nityashaha, tasyaham sulabha partha, nitya yuktasya yoginah. Krishna is saying that for those who are in this way, they are not after just escaping the cycle of birth and death, but they are after embracing their reality that I am a part and parcel servant of God. And that therefore I want to live my life accordingly. So for them, Krishna makes the process extremely simple. The word that Krishna uses is Sulabha. It's not Shatchakra Yoga. It's Sulabha. Sulabha means very, very simple process. The simple process is that you just find out a way to connect with the Supreme Personality of God and make that a part of your Abhyas Yoga practice. And for this day and age, that is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In Kali Santaran Upanishad, it's been articulated the best possible way. That Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Iti Shodashakam Nam Kali Kalmasha Nashanam, Na Atah Paradarubhaya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. That even if you go through the entire Vedic scriptures, you cannot find a method that is more sublime than the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Therefore, you practice the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra while we are living, instead of thinking about, will I remember Krishna at the time of death? You understand? Instead of that, let's be concerned about what we can do right now. So can we actually change our lifestyle in such a way that we can give some place for the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? Start with 7 minutes, start with 10 minutes, and let Hare Krishna Mahamantra enter your life and then purify you, elevate your consciousness so that like you can actually come normally and in the most natural way and embrace that reality that Krishna is presenting here. And then go back to the spiritual world, remembering Krishna. And then remembering Krishna is chanting Hare Krishna at the time of leaving this body. If we are habituated to chanting Hare Krishna during this life, there is a high chance that at the time of death, we'll also leave the body chanting Hare Krishna. And therefore, that will make your life 100% successful. We'll straight away go back to the spiritual abode. It is just like this. If suppose I'm taking a very difficult exam, all these other processes are like that. You're taking difficult exam and you want to get the happiness of feeling that I did it. I want to independently solve the most complex problems. Sometimes when you solve these most complex problems on your own, that gives you a kick that I did it. You understand this feeling? Most of the times, like we are appearing for all these examinations, all these things to just prove to ourselves how great I am. But actually, that's anathema to our real spiritual existence. On the other hand, if just imagine if there is someone who's just sitting while you are appearing for this very difficult exam, just sitting next to you, and just whenever you are stuck, that other person is just nudging you in the right direction so that you can solve the problem. You see, that is called Sulabha. So Krishna is there to make our life much easier when we are really embracing Krishna in our life and then wanting Krishna actually to intervene in our life to help us through our spiritual journey. So it's a different kind of an experience. So on one hand, just think about just adopting a process which is just based on just your own efforts, and just think about the case when Krishna's mercy can be added to it. It just brings another level of empowerment and strength to your whole process. And that is why Krishna says that I make things very easy for you if you are willing to enter into your loving transcendental relationship with me. So overall, what we spoke is that we initially set the stage for what are the different practices of meditation. So we say that okay, sometimes people try to negate, sometimes people try to just embrace everything or try to go inward. The direction that Krishna takes us is more on an inward journey, where we can find ourselves, really our divine connection with the Supreme Lord, which is the source of our existence. And then Krishna is basically saying that the success of that meditation is if you are able to remember me at the time of death. Now that's not going to happen just like that. In order to do that, you have to cultivate that remembrance while you are busy with your ordinary chores. And that's also not going to happen ordinarily. In order to make that happen, you need to have a practice. And the practice that Krishna gives is actually the chanting of a mantra, And the best mantra for this age is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So you can see like how things fit together. And therefore, through the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we cultivate remembrance of Krishna, and we continue that remembrance through the performance of ordinary activities, just so that at the time of leaving this body, we can again remember Krishna and go back home, back to Godhead, not just like suspending in the air or something, We will attain to Krishna. That's the point that Krishna is making. That's all I wanted to share. Any question or comment? Are you now clear on the science of meditation? What is this meditation all about? It is not just for random completion. It has a very specific goal in mind. And just see the positioning of meditation in the Bhagavad Gita.
Prabhuji, one question.
So instead of chanting the entire mantra of Krishna, if we just chant in the morning Hare Krishna or Sri Krishna, after waking up and before going to sleep, is that suffice?
Yeah, that's great. But you have to just chant certain number of rounds. That's exactly what we are supposed to do. That we are supposed to wake up early and then make room for whatever. Let's say you are able to make room for 10 minutes right now. And in 10 minutes, you can finish one round, which is 108 times of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Now, as you develop more and more affinity for the chant, 2 rounds become 4 rounds, 4 rounds become 8 rounds, 8 rounds becomes 6 rounds. Geometric progression is better when it comes to spiritual activities. So, in other words, one important point is that because time is Krishna's energy. So, therefore, when we give our time to Krishna, time expands in inexplicable ways. You understand? And I invite you to test that out. I have tested it many times. You give your time to, at some point in time, what seems to be practically inconceivable to accommodate in my schedule just somehow becomes accommodated because the time expands by Krishna's mercy. So give your time to Krishna, little bit of time, and let Krishna enter, and then he will expand the time for you. And then you will find time, because time is actually a function of our priority. Where are we giving our priorities? That's where our time gets somehow dedicated. So you just give little priority to Krishna, and then you will see what happens. Is that okay? Any other question or comment? Okay, I think, yeah.
Why Krishna created this world, something that we have to go back.
Okay, let's do that offline. Okay, because that's a very nice question, but I need to spend some time. Maybe after the article, we'll spend some time. Okay, one more. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So,
Hare Bol.